Hogan Gidley, a friend of Charlie Kirk, who was just texting with him yesterday, and he was on the House floor moments ago during a moment of silence. Hogan, first, I am so sorry for your loss. You knew Charlie. Talk to me about what you remember about him and what this moment means right now. It is so incredibly sad for those people that were close to Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, for having me. I remember working in the first Trump administration in the White House, and Charlie would come by, and we would all kind of look and say, "Who is this kid? What does he think he's doing? He's so ambitious, and he's so talented at this young age." And we all kind of gravitated toward him. We watched what he was doing with the youth across this country, not afraid to go into hostile areas and have a debate over ideas. No violence. Altercations other than verbal, because that's what the country is all about, disagreeing. And he built a brand, he built an entity, he built a movement based on the ability to come together and have these sensible, honest conversations with statistics, with data. And just watching him do that, it was just awe-inspiring for someone like me who's been in this movement for such a long time, and to watch him at such a young age be able to capture the hearts and minds of so many across the country really was a blessing to me. I will tell you, we were texting just the other day, as you mentioned. He was supposed to go speak at my alma mater at the end of October at Ole Miss, the University of Mississippi in Oxford, and I told him I saw that he was coming, and he knew I went there. He said, "Oh, you have to come to that. We're going to have a great time." And so I was trying to plan a trip down to Oxford to be with him. And now this happens today, and I'm so sad to think of his wife and his children who were left behind after this tragedy. But I'm also filled with rage to think someone would do something like this simply for disagreeing with somebody politically. We don't know the motivations yet, but obviously they didn't like Charlie. But there's no place for political violence in this country. The shooter is grotesque, is vile, is a disgusting person. And as Kelly said, as you said, we're going to wait and see more information as it comes out. But right now, I think a lot of people are in shock. A lot of people are angry, and a lot of people are sad at what just occurred.
Hogan, you can never get in the mind of somebody who would want to assassinate a political figure, a public figure, right? Likely they have some type of issues. What was it you think about Charlie that would compel someone to do this, in the sense that he, like I said to Kelly, he was not elected. He had never held political office, but he had a huge platform, millions of followers on social media. But he's not a household name. If you're not really into politics, you likely don't know who Charlie Kirk is. And maybe even if you're not into Republican politics, you have never heard of him. We know him because we work in this space. You work with him closely, as you had said. But what do you think it was about Charlie that would have prompted somebody to do something as vile and as violent as this?
Well, there is nothing about Charlie that would, should, or could push somebody to do something like this. That is unacceptable, regardless of your thoughts of his policies or his positions. There is no excuse, there is no reason, there is no rationale for this behavior in any form or fashion. I don't care what Charlie Kirk said, what he did, no excuse for this at all. And what is so frustrating is, as the tensions in this country continue to get ratcheted up, you brought this up at the beginning of the segment, we had a former president, a candidate, dodge a bullet in reality, was shot in the ear, and then another assassination attempt was foiled. And now we have someone like Charlie Kirk as well. You mentioned not elected, true, but someone who just wanted to go on these college campuses. And as they used to be places we could share ideas and debate ideas, it seems like they've become petri dishes or cesspools for silencing and censoring voices that differ with your opinions. And so there is no reason for anyone to want to attack Charlie Kirk. There is no reason that is legitimate by any stretch of the imagination. We don't know this person. We don't know the motivation, as you said. However, this is just flat out evil.
Yeah, flat out evil, and it speaks to sort of how large of a figure Charlie had become, if you will, Hogan, right? He had become someone who, when we just see that video in Utah, thousands of people had shown up. We've spoken to eyewitnesses who were excited to be there to hear him speak. He had crowds like this all over the country. And he really was sort of an upstart, correct? I mean, he started on his own, little by little, and then built this massive following.
Absolutely. And any one of his many events in a given year were can't miss for so many youth across this country who are looking to get into politics, who are interested in conservative causes or ideology, wanting to learn more. They set a new bar, a new high for entertainment too, not just someone getting up behind a podium and giving a speech, but so much of this was showmanship as well, bringing in the youth vote. He had a massive impact on the election in 2020, obviously won in 2024 as well, doing some incredible work in many key battleground states, just from a mechanical standpoint, getting out the vote, doing the non-sexy parts of politics, the roll up your sleeves, door knocking, engaging with voters. This is what he understood. Again, at such a young age, that's how you get involved and that's how you effectuate change. He didn't even hint at violence, didn't hint at anything other than honest, open debate and conversation. That's why this is so tragic, and that's why this is so hurtful to so many. I will just say this, and I would be remiss if I didn't. Charlie was a devout Christian. He believed in the risen Lord, and right now the people out there who are suffering and who are sad for him understand where he is and what he is doing. He is embraced by his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and that for many of us is going to be one of the things that gives us some sense of comfort today.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.